Ghana, over 5 million people live with a disability, making them the country's largest minority. They face a lot of social stigma, creating a culture of entrenched discrimination. However, one man won't allow all that to affect him. Being personally deaf, he set up the Deaf Ministry at the Church of Pentecost to reach out to persons of his kind. Bernice Abubedu visited the church and reports.
It's a Sunday and many Ghanaians are on their way to church. Today I'm joining the Shalom Peace Assembly at Nungwa, a church for deaf people, one of the few in Ghana. There are about 30 worshippers today. Here, everything is done in sign language. With their hands moving in unison, members passionately sign their songs and dance, while some of their leaders who can speak sing along. It's now time to pray, and Joyce Edwajaman, one of the leaders here, is in charge. She speaks as she signs so I can understand. As I observe the congregation, I wonder where they would all be on a Sunday like this, but for one man, Reverend Reuben Wuni, who started the Deaf Ministry at the Church of Pentecost. So far, he set up 4 main branches and was recently ordained the first deaf pastor of the church after 27 years of preaching to members of the deaf community. His wife interprets for him at all meetings with those who can't sign.
When I was young, at a very tender age, I was in a Sunday school. I go to Sunday school. When I became deaf, then I started going to the deaf school. From there, I saw that there was no church. We have a lot of deaf people in Ghana, but there was no church. So I decided to start the Deaf Ministry.
It's just like a classroom setting as he delivers his sermon on love. There's a whiteboard with the title, scripture references and other details. He encourages his members to love one another. In this church, members have an opportunity to ask questions. It's very interactive. After 30 minutes, the sermon ends. The tithes and offerings are taken and the grace is said. It's been a message on love. Assembly move out into their various communities. Do they feel loved by a society and its members like myself who know very little about how to communicate with them or even provide services tailored to their needs? Sitting in the church and watching members sign in prayer, praise and worship, I begin to get a sense of how it feels to be deaf, that the issue of deafness is deeper and more complex. Reverend Wuni is worried about how people treat the deaf in our society.
Most of us know that outside Ghana, everybody is treated well. Outside Ghana, I've been treated well, and wherever you go, we have interpreters around where they help you with your communication. But in Ghana, people see you and sometimes they don't even want to get closer to you.
In Ghana, 2.5 million people live with a disability, making them the country's largest minority. They face severe social stigma, creating a culture of entrenched discrimination. Reverend Wuni has some thoughts on how society can make life better for members of the deaf community.
I want people to show love to the deaf people and support them as well. And I wish a lot of people can learn the sign language, at least to break the communication barrier between the deaf and the hearing, and also job opportunities for the deaf people.
This pastor wasn't born deaf. He recounts what led to his hearing loss.
At age 5, I fell sick, and then they took me to hospital. I was admitted for about a month. And we were 20 kids in one ward. All the 19 kids died, and I was the only one who survived. And I became deaf from then.
Did they tell you what sickness it was?
CSM.
Out of intense curiosity, I find out why he still preaches, even though he's not yet benefited from the healing power of God.
God has a reason why people become deaf. Jesus can heal, yes, he can heal. He has a reason why he has not healed me. Even if I was healed, maybe I will not start this ministry.
I've learned how to sign "thank you" and "God bless you," something that makes Reverend Winnie smile, and I leave him feeling fulfilled. Maybe if we all learned how to sign, he and others like him will feel loved and connected. Then we can begin an intensive process of providing tailor-made services for the deaf in Ghana. Bernice Abubedu, JoyNews, Accra.
Rather touching story there, and that's quite making a difference. The only sign I can do is this one. I'm sure that's for love. I don't know. Okay, not at all for you. Okay.
Like this.
Wow. But I'm sure quickly I would want to take your thoughts on this.
Well, I think that the problem we have in this country is the problems generally for the disability community. You know, we have persons with albinism, we have the deaf, we have those who are physically challenged, and then we have of course, the hearing impaired, and then we have the blind. And the truth is that even though Ghana has signed the United Nations Convention on the right of persons with disability, not much has been done over the years as far as these people are concerned. Now, when you take persons who are deaf particularly, they are supposed to be entitled to all the rights, you know, right to dignity, right to education, right to inclusiveness, right to freedom of expression, you know, and all these includes our interaction with them, you know, and children who are born deaf and those who were not born deaf, all of them have a right to these basic amenities, particularly ability to communicate with the society. Because once they can't communicate, it means that we've excluded them out of society. And what we have now is a real system of discrimination against persons who are deaf. Now, I grew up as a Catholic, and I don't remember, and maybe to date, maybe the Catholic community can prove me wrong, that if there is any mass service in this country where we have sign language, we don't. I doubt.
Now that we've talked about it, I'm sure they
probably will talk about it. Yeah, maybe it will be very important.
Yeah,
you know, the only one I remember was when I became a Church of Christ member at the Sawan Road Church. We have this deaf ministry at the Sawan Road Church that was doing so well, and they also have like a whole church, deaf service.
Okay, but I know, I know for sure that Christ Temple, for instance, they have
sign language.
They sit at one point,
and then so I think that this is the time for us. You know, it's a renaissance. It's a call to action. What we just saw is supposed to tell each and every one that wherever you are, you must be minded of the fact that there may be people who are, hearing impaired. And if they are, we should be able to provide them with the facilities for them to have full participation and inclusion.
Francis Xavier Susu, we'll leave it here. Please do have lunch with us more often. Please do join us on The Pulse. Thank you so much. Francis Xavier Susu is a legal practitioner joining us here on The Pulse. We'll take a short break. We're right back.